Hello, welcome back to my first sort of official video of 2026. I figured because we're already halfway through January, it was probably time to talk to you about my goals for the year. I'm not the best at setting and sticking to goals. In fact, I didn't even reflect on 2025 because they just went out the window pretty quickly. It was a really bad year. So my goal is to turn it around in 2026 and make 2026 the best possible year. That includes reading, content creation, and everything in between. I'm being probably too ambitious in 2026 because nothing screams overcorrecting from a bad year like just really going for it. So let's talk about what I want to do in 2026. This is going to be split up into categories. If you want timestamps down in the description, we're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, which kind of falls under goals, but is sort of its own category. We're going to talk about reading journals, and that's it. Those are the categories. Feel free to skip to whatever you want to hear. So let's start with goals. First off, my reading goal. I set my reading goal to 65 books, which I feel like is manageable. I read 64, I believe, in 2025. 66. I read 66 because I finished a couple right in the last few days of the year. My goal was 60, so I surpassed that. Yay. And the year before that, I'd only read 61, so I surpassed that as well. So also yay. I figured 65 is good because that's reachable. If I have a year like I had in 25, fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but if I have a year like I did in 2025, I at least know that I can read 65 books. However, my stretch goal, my dream is to get back to 100. I had a couple of years in a row where I hit 100 books. It's such a satisfying feeling to get to that 100 book mark. Not that I'm trying to say that if you read more or less books, it's any more or less honorable. Honestly, if you read 10 books a year, you're doing great. If you read 2 books a year, you're doing great. If you read 100 books a year, if you read 200 books a year, everybody's doing great. As long as you're reading, you're doing great. But for me personally, I would really like to reach 100 books. My second goal is that I'm going to be doing the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ins and outs of that in that section, but the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do is a year-long reading challenge created by Stephanie over at the channel QWERTY. I'll leave a link to her channel as well as the playlist, I think, down in the description if you're interested. It technically started in July, but I am starting it in January and I'm just going to do it for the entirety of 2026. The challenge is basically designed for you to fail, but it's also designed for you to really step outside your comfort zone in terms of reading. There's a bingo board, and to mark off each square, you have to meet a certain amount of prompts. Some of them you control the amount, some of them are predetermined, some of them you get to decide what genre or types of books you want to read. There is some level of control with what you'll be reading, but also a lot of it is set in stone and you just have to go off the prompts that are already there. I feel like this is a really fun challenge to do for yourself, and I'm not gonna be messed up if I don't complete it. Chances are I won't complete it, and I've pretty much already accepted that fact, so I am going into it with my expectations at a normal level. My next goal is that I want to read or unhaul my entire physical TBR. I had a goal last year to get my physical TBR down below 50 books, which was essentially cutting it in half. I think I started the year at 98, 99 books. Well, this year I'm going the whole hog. We're going to try to get it all the way to 0. Again, I'm not going to be mad if I don't reach this goal because I like to have some options, but there are so many books on my shelves that I have been wanting to get to for so long. There are so many books on my shelves that have been on my shelves for way too long. I've been tracking when I buy books since 2017. I at least know that there are quite a few books that are still on my TBR from 2017 when I bought them, and there's even a few that were on my TBR before 2017. So just too long for books to be sitting unread on my shelves. I'm going to be doing kind of a soft book buying ban. There are a couple of new releases that I know that I'm going to want to buy, but for the most part, I am going to be using my library for new releases and then picking books off my TBR. My last goal is going to be another subheading, and that is my bookish and reading journals. So I'm not going to talk about them until I get to that section. Timestamp if you want to go straight to that. Essentially, I just want to utilize my reading journals a little bit more. I'm trying to figure out what works best for me in a reading journal capacity, a planner capacity. I feel like the things I've been doing and trying for the last few years just haven't really been working. And so I'm trying a bunch of different things this year to see if something sticks and works best. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk about the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, also known as hrcyed. This year I think is 2.0. The one that's currently ongoing is hrcyed 2.0, and so there's a lot more nuance and ins and outs of the challenge. Here is what I have come up with for my own personal hrcyed hardest reading challenge you'll ever do rules. My first personal rule is the same as Stephanie's rule, which is Books can count for more than one prompt, but they can only count for total of 2 prompts. Number 2 is once I have allocated a book to a prompt, I can't move it. So if I read a book and I say, oh, this is perfect because it's got a yellow cover, so it fits for the Rainbow Challenge. And then a couple months go by and I'm like, oh, actually, I probably should put that for this release year, whatever. I'm not allowed to change it. Whatever I commit to when I finish the book and I decide to assign the prompts, that's done. So it makes it a little bit more challenging because I might have to get a bit innovative with some of the prompts as the year goes on. It'll obviously depend on how the reading is going. I'm also planning on being fairly intentional about the books that I pick up and actually trying to fit in some of those harder prompts anyway. So I feel like this isn't a big deal. Number 3, DNFs are okay. I don't think Stephanie allows DNFs in the official hrcyed rulebook, but life is too short for me to push through books that I'm not enjoying. If I don't like something, I'm giving myself the permission to DNF it. I'm not going to force myself through anything. There's too many books to read in the world, and I don't want to read things that I don't enjoy. I DNF'd my very first book of 2026, and I had a really hard time doing that just because it was the first book of the year. I was really afraid that it would bring some negative energy into the remainder of the year, but I let that go, and I DNF'd it, and I feel better for it. So DNF's 100% okay. And my last hrcyed plan, rule, whatever, is that I'm going to be doing regular vlogs for some of the challenge prompts throughout the year. I might pick one bingo square and do a vlog of me completing it. And I'll be giving regular updates probably in my wrap ups. I didn't really mention this in the first section because it's not really a goal per se, but I'm planning on doing a lot more reading vlogs this year, whether they just be a weekly vlog where I take you along in my life or something a bit more themed or structured or whatever. If I'm vlogging the books that I'm reading, then I won't necessarily have a reason to go through all the books that I read each month in great detail. So that will give me some time to talk about which hrcyed prompts they fit into and so on and so forth. I'm planning on doing at least one update every single month for the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do in my wrap up, but probably some other updates and vlogs and things sprinkled in throughout the year as well. I think it's gonna be really fun. I honestly am really excited. I kind of decided to do this back in September, October, November, sometime around there. I had been toying with the idea and then I just decided, you know what, I'm going for it. I'm going to commit to it. And I was so eager for the new year to start just so that I could get started on this reading challenge. I feel like the excitement right now is just because it's a new year, new things are happening, and I hope that I can maintain that excitement as the year goes on, but we'll all be along for that ride. Final section is journals and planners and all things organization. So I have quite a few options for reading journals, tracking. I don't know. I like to write things down physically as well as having a spreadsheet or, obviously Goodreads. I track my reading in so many different places and I use every tracking thing for different reasons. I have a Google Sheets spreadsheet on my Google Drive that was created by Allie forever ago. I think she's completely redone it in the last few years, but I got it from her many years ago and I've sort of just adapted it to what my needs are. And I feel like it's in its perfect iteration for me right now. So I use that to keep track of how many pages I'm reading and the ethnicities of authors and where authors are from and publishers and years and months and everything. I use it for all the finer nitty-gritty details. But I also really like to have some sort of creative visualization of the books I'm reading. I've been using this giant bullet journal for several years. I think I started this in 2020. Let's look at the first page. 2021 was the first year that I used this. Over the years, gone from doing a monthly situation to just basically doing a big year-long look and overview of my books. Last year, I didn't really use it much. I had a page where I talked about my goals, or I wrote down my goals so that I had them at a glance. Then I was really focused on posting more on social media last year. So this was a page that I did to track every day that I posted on one of my social media sites. So if it was Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. This year, I'm gonna do something similar. I did these monthly boxes and I did little boxes for the days, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing where I just track if I post something. This page, see if you can see it, is a more visual representation of the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. And I've already picked out colors for every single month. So whatever I read each month, whichever challenges I tick off, then I'll color in the box with that month's color. And then it'll be a fun rainbowy situation to look at the end of the year. And then I am also planning on writing down my entire physical TBR on these pages. I've drawn out book covers and I'm going to put my entire physical TBR in a square and color them in as I read them. But that's sort of just like an overview, like a visual representation of my reading and a visual representation of my main reading goals, which are doing the hardest reading challenge I'll ever do and getting my physical TBR down to 0. For an actual reading journal, I want to try something out this year that I've never done before, and that is to write some notes of every single book that I read for the year. And most of these things can be for myself. You know, it's not really necessarily for content so much as it's some notes that I'm taking as I'm reading and things that really stuck out to me, quotes that I like. This will be fun to like look back on at the end of the year and just see sort of what my thoughts were in the moment. And especially when I get towards the end of the year and I'm like trying to figure out what my best and worst books of the year were, then I can go back to this and sort of see, well, has the book that I said was like my all-time favorite book or whatever, has it stuck with me the same? It'll be interesting to see how that kind of progresses. Who knows if I'll stick to it? I'm hoping I will, but we'll see. I also have this little tiny Lloydstrom. It is a weekly planner. On this side, it's like a weekly breakdown, and then there's a blank page where you can write notes. And this is really just literally a to-do list for me. What videos am I posting? What days? And what books do I need to read on what days? And I'm just trying to like be a little bit more scheduled and organized. Having the blank pages on the side will help to kind of flesh out some ideas as well. The last journal I have, or it's not really a journal, it's literally just a notebook where I'm writing down my video ideas and plans. I'm trying to be a bit more organized with all of my content ideas because I'm just really in this new creative bubble space that I have so many ideas, and I'm using this to write them down, and then sort of I can flesh them out. I can plan them and say, hey, if this video is something I want to film soon, then maybe I can like use this to like schedule it in for February or March or whatever. It also has cats on the cover, and it says every day is Catter-day, and I love that. So that's going to do it for this video. It was long-winded and my camera battery is flashing, so I'm trying to wrap it up quickly. Let me know down in the comments if you have any specific reading goals for 2026 that you're trying to accomplish. Are you more structured, like I am choosing to be this year, or are you sort of just going with the flow like I've done in the past? I don't really know what's going to work for me because every year is different, and every year I feel like I'm a different version of me. I feel like I'm in this sort of like want to create stage right now, so I feel like this more structured look at 2026 will be a much more helpful viewpoint. We'll see. We'll honestly see. I will do some reflections as the year goes on about how my goals are going and what is working and what isn't working. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!